Samuel Solder very generously gave me a year's worth of subscriptions on Patreon and brings you today's video. Jodah the Unifier versus Mizzix, Ivy and Obeka. 3 blue commanders, that's not good. Windfall as well. I'm not in love with that hand. I really want ramp and most of our colours if we can get into them, so I'll try a free mulligan on that. And yeah, immediately that's looking a lot better. Wheel of Fortune refills our hand. We go first but still draw and get into a land, that's excellent, so not going to worry about colours this game. Play out the Jetmir's Guardian, or Jetmir's Garden even. Turn 1 Mana Vault from Mizzix of the Izmagnus. We draw into Nyambi. First commander of the game is Ivy, Gleeful Spellthief. Drawing 2 Deadly Rollick this time. Not going to be able to get down our commander or do anything on turn 4, unfortunately. I'll just take advantage of the fact that we can get down a tap land and pass. Rhystic Study from Obeka. Curiosity, enchanting the Ivy. They campaign to the Rhystic Study and looks like they are doing. I'm actually wondering if we should make use of the fact that we can cast Deadly Rollick here. I'll wait to see. Maybe they swing in at us and we can make it look like we're punishing them for swinging in at us. That might dissuade them from doing the same again later on. Trying to play mind games here. Alright, going in at Obeka. Yeah, I'll leave them be on second thoughts. There's nothing to stop us casting Deadly Rollick after our commander's in play. Mizzix of the Izmagnus, they do tap down their Mana Vault in order to get that out a few turns early. Looks like they might be missing a land here. And they do have a floating mana for the Rhystic Study. Deciding not to pay for the Rhystic Study though, so 1 mana still floating. Maybe they've got a 2-drop for us. Yeah, they do have a land. Okay, and then tapping down the mana and just, yeah, not casting anything anyway, so they should have paid into the Rhystic Study there. Let's take advantage. We need a blue and a black land yet. So we'll grab ourselves a Ketria Triome, that can be the blue mana for us. Okay, Yoshimaru Ever Faithful is what we draw into here. Yeah, it seems pretty risky running out the Jodah here. Obeka could wipe us out with a board wipe, but then I think they really, yeah, they're really punishing themselves in a way because all 3 of us will swing in towards them. Yeah, I'll play out the Jodah, I'll risk it. Not paying into the Rhystic Study in order to do that. I just don't want to skip 2 turns in a row in which we do nothing, so I'll give them a card for that. Urborg going to fix our black mana. Tapping double black, hope this isn't a damnation. No, we just get 4 commanders in a row, not often that happens, so Obeka, Brute Chronologist into play. Now a leap, that is target creature gains flying until the end of the turn, just a cantrip effect for the Ivy, and they are feeding cards into the Rhystic Study for doing that, so maybe they're eager for a land drop. Inevitable Betrayal, and Teleria West being discarded to hand size by the Grixis player. Ivy swings in towards Obeka. Curiosity drawing a card, they go up to 8 in hand. Now playing Bloom Tender, which will tap for Simic. They allowed the Rhystic Study player to draw a card there, so I'm assuming that they're holding up Counter Magic back up to keep their Ivy in play. Frantic Search being cast by Mizzix of the Izmagnus, so they get their first experience counter here, making their things cost 1 less. And cards are being fed into the Rhystic Study player. Mystic Retrieval being dumped by that, as well as Melik. Obviously they untap 3 lands there. Now going for Mystic Retrieval onto that thing, so they will be able to cast that for a single mana. So I'm wondering if I maybe should have gone for Deadly Rollick before now. But anyway, they continue to feed cards over to the Rhystic Study player and have 3 experience counters now. Playing out Halimar Depths now, they can reorganise the top 3 cards. There is Metallurgic Summonings and the Fierce Guardianship. Stroke of Genius now, where X is 2. They've only put 3 mana into that, I think. No, they would have put 2 mana into it. And then they're just tapping out. Yeah, really could have slowed down the Mizzix player there. This is always a commander to be worried about. But I think, well, we're just seeing if our opponents want to do anything about it first. There's 12 cards in hand over here. Drawing to a Polluted Delta, that's good. All of our lands are bayous now, thanks to both seeing an Urborg and a Yavimaya. Wonder if we're eventually going to get the entire cycle of these things. 1 for every single land. I know Merfolk would like an island version. So why don't we try and cascade into something here, as well as Hoffrey getting us into, or allowing us to protect our board a little bit. I do want to be paying into the Rhystic Study, although does it really matter at this point? We've got 12 cards in hand. Yeah, let's go Yoshimaru. Won't bother with the Rhystic Study, like I said. The only 0 drop we've got is Rograk, Son of Rogar. So continue to feed mana to the Obeka. Saving grace being that they're not going to be all that great at ramping in a Grixis deck. And then after that we'll play Hoffrey Ghostforge. Takes us into, I was hoping for something bigger than that. That is a Kari Zev. Getting a nice hefty chunk of legendaries into play though, as well as getting a nice hefty chunk of cards into the Grixis player's hand. So Yoshimaru's starting to trigger here. Each legendary that enters is going to get a plus counter on there. And now with Hoffrey being in play, whenever we lose our creatures, they'll get exiled and a token copy of them will come into play until they leave play. And then they'll go back in the bin, so we don't lose them permanently. Our commander is now a 10-10. So let's swing over to Obeka. As worried as I am about Mizzix, we can blow up the Mizzix. Yeah, Obeka might have a bunch of removal in hand, and they might be willing to remove our stuff anyway, so might as well give them a reason to, as well as putting a nice clock on them. They do not block. Just now noticing that Corzilla is a friend of the channel, so that is the Ivy player. Big thank you to Cor for watching. Muddle the Mixture from the Obeka player, that is Transmute, search for a card that's 2 mana or less. Or is it exactly 2 mana? Yeah, it has to be the same mana value, so that is 2 mana. They search up a Warrior's Oath. Extra turn after this one, and at the beginning of that turn you lose the game. But they can take that trigger off the stack with Obeka. So, do we just knock Obeka out of the game here? We could destroy the Obeka. Problem is, we're playing into Mizzix's hand there. And they've got their instants and sorceries costing 4 less. I think Ivy is able to do something about this anyway. That is a Virulent Wisps. Yeah, that's just a cantrip spell. So putting more cards into their hand. They obviously targeted the Bloom Tender, so they get a copy of that. That's a 1 mana cantrip spell. So instead of going for the auras, or maybe they've gone for auras and instant speed cantrips, whereas I went for mutate and auras. A few different ways to go for Ivy, as you saw in the deck tech video, if you watched that. So 1 mana, draw 2 cards in this instance. Yeah, and I'll see what my opponent does here. I'm thinking at the moment that I am going to destroy the Obeka before they can remove that from the stack. Having to discard a bunch of cards to hand size here. If they don't do anything too crazy during their turn, then I will go for blowing up the Mizzix instead. They've exiled a Mox Tantalite at some point, so that is going to be removed. I saw revealed, at some point, they revealed a Blightsteel Colossus as well. Not sure when that happened. Anyway, discarding a bunch of lands, a Saheeli, Goblin Dark Dwellers, and an Ancestral Vision is in the bin as well. Shallow Grave now. Return the top creature card of your graveyard to the battlefield. Gains haste and exile it at the beginning of the next end step. Top card of their library is Goblin Dark Dwellers as far as I can see. And there we see a slip out the back. Put a plus counter on a target creature, it phases out. That's really clever. So they get to phase out their Ivy, which will not have the aura drop off. Phase off doesn't care about that. Actually, the aura phases out with it. But yeah, with Obeka phasing out, you have to treat it like it doesn't exist, and therefore they can't tap out for the ability. So yeah, that's them done as far as I can tell. Saves our Deadly Relic for the Mizzix as well, which is why I held off on it. I always want my opponents to use their removal before we use ours. And then they cast a Final Fortune. I mean that. Yeah, they could have taken multiple extra turns in a row, but they would have needed their Obeka in play in order to do that. So pretty risky going for those cards before they have protection for the Obeka. Now an Entomb as well. Entombing into the bin a Sidraxis Spectre. And now going for the Obeka. So ending the turn here, which will still put the extra turn spell on the stack. Alright, that's how it works. So because they didn't go through to the end of turn step, the Warrior's Oath didn't trigger. So that's how it works. You just end the turn immediately on whatever phase you're on. We've still got this one though, Final Fortune. So that is going to trigger at the end of this turn, at the end step. So maybe if I was going to go for the Deadly Relic on Obeka, should have done it while they were tapped out. Snapcaster Mage now, so once again going for the extra turn spell. So we'll just make them exile their extra turn spell here, make them put mana into it, and I think I'll go for the Deadly Rollick onto the Obeka, force them to end the turn. So Warrior's Oath being cast here, take an extra turn after this one. Before that resolves, I'll go for the Obeka with Deadly Rollick. Bit too much Solitaire going on here for my liking. If we're lucky, we'll get Cauzilla to... Oh, alright, that gets them to scoop, excellent. Yeah, I was going to say, if we're lucky, we'll get Ivy to get a copy of Deadly Rollick onto itself, but they obviously say no to that. Oh, it's a mixture of everything apparently. Parcel Beast going to go onto the Bloom Tender and the Ivy, so they'll become 2/4s. And then the ability on this is 1 tap, look at the top card, land goes onto the battlefield, otherwise put it into your hand. So yeah, Ivy is still on the left hand side, Bloom Tender is on the right. And continuing to hold up blue mana, which is always frustrating against a blue player. Now then, let's see if Mizzix just straight up wins here. Blatant Thievery is, yeah, that was only 3 mana they had to pay for that. So stealing away the Bloom Tender / Parcel Beast, which will have Summoning Sickness for them. Stealing away our Hoffrey as well. So maybe going to try and wipe the board here. The Summoning Sickness won't matter because they tap that down straight away. Looks like they're floating mana with it. And then deciding to play Cackling Counterpart, so that does copy the Parcel Beast, the mutated version of Bloom Tender. And then that will obviously make a copy of the Ivy as well. Ivy is now not legendary, so they will have 2 Ivies in play, which are both Parcel Beasts. And now with Blatant Thievery on the stack, Mizzix is doing something else, maybe copying Blatant Thievery, and then untapping. So successfully stealing away the Parcel Beast and the Hoffrey. And now it's Comet Storm, where X is 2, but the stuff costs 5 less, so going to get rid of a bunch of our legendary stuff as well as one of the Ivies. That is the original Ivy. So, looks like might be going for Supreme Verdict then. Alright, that actually only dealt 2 there. Did they not put enough mana into X? Yeah, that's a Magic Online problem, unfortunately. That's a shame that happened for them. Obviously it's beneficial for us, but yeah, that shouldn't have happened there. That should have cost 5 less, so they should have dealt at least 5 damage to us, and then the 2 mana that they actually threw in would have been 7 in total, of course. Anyway, it puts us in a better position. Cascading Cataracts will make Weeberg mana for us quite consistently. There's actually nothing we can cascade into with Nyambi. That's actually in here to try and protect my commander, but yeah, I'm now wondering if we should just go Wheel of Fortune at this point. Yeah, it could be risky giving the Mizzix player an extra few cards. They discard 3 and draw up to 7. Ivy is on 6 cards, so it's not quite as risky for them. So let's see what they had. Oh, we got rid of an Ancestral Mask, so yeah, they've really spread themselves out across the different archetypes. Quasi-Duplicate and Croaking Counterpart as well, really trying to make as many copies of Ivy as possible. We see discarded here a Swarm of Intelligence and Enter the Infinite, so yeah, they didn't really have anything there, so we've just filled up the Mizzix player's hand and put them in a much better position. Getting to 2 tutors, there's a Beast Within. Anguished Unmaking could exile the Mizzix, which dodges the Hoffrey. Yeah, I think we're just holding on to a Vampiric Tutor and some removal, so let's swing in. Noteworthy that we've lost the Urborg with the Obeka player scooping, by the way. So we'll slam in towards the Mizzix player. We're going to get a Ragavan token, which is legendary, and that can go in the same direction. So everything getting buffed up there. Yoshimaru gets a plus counter on it as well, so that goes up to a 9/9. We might be able to save ourselves some removal here because they might make some blocks. Yep, blocking our Jodah with the Hoffrey. Good to get that off them. So they go plummeting down to 11. I don't think the Simic player will be able to deal with them, unfortunately. All our stuff gets debuffed by 1 when the Ragavan gets exiled. But that was a 7/6 Ragavan, so well worth swinging in with that. Yeah, I think we're just holding on to Vamp Tutor and Anguished Unmaking. Cerulean Wisps, another instant speed cantrip. So what are we on here? One of these was Ivy. Yep, that one is an Ivy copy, so they get 2 of these. This will be a nightmare to keep track of in paper. Oh, they actually have the Ivy copy here, right. So they've got their Ivy in play with the Curiosity still, yeah. This one is an Ivy, so shouldn't they have targeted this? Target this one and then they get 2 more copies. I'm sure they only got 1 copy of the Cerulean Wisps there. You can see the number of cards in the hand here. They're on 9, so I mean you can go back a few seconds and see how many cards they had before and after. Not doing too well on mana there, considering they are a Simic player, unfortunately. So, alright, Cloud of Fairies is free. And then it's quasi-duplicate, so that goes onto the Cloud of Fairies, which will untap a couple more lands, and then, yeah, they get the 2 Parcel Beast triggers there, so maybe they did draw more with the Wisps before, and I just missed it. So they're going to have 4 Ivies in play now, 4 Parcel Beast Ivies. They discarded a Forest to jumpstart that from the bin, by the way. So, quasi-duplicate, now in exile. Noteworthy that Cackling Counterpart is a flashback spell that they can do from the bin as well. That will cost them 7 mana though. Dreamtail Heron now. And they get... they've got 4 Ivies in play, so the Dreamtail Heron is when it mutates, draw a card. That's going on to the Cloud of Fairies. So they'll have 5 Dreamtail Herons in play. They might as well upgrade the body there, because that'll be a 3-4 as opposed to the 2-4 it is currently. So ending the turn with 11 cards in hand, they've got, yeah, that 2-4 still in play, a 3-4 flyer as well. So they can deal probably 5 damage to the Mizzix player. Noteworthy that they do play an island there as well, so could have Swan Song or something like that. And swinging in at us, not Mizzix. That's curious. So I'm going to crack the Verdant Catacombs here. I'll grab myself a black source so that we can go for the Anguished Unmaking. Actually, on second thoughts, I'll go Beast Within. I don't think there's a land that we're going to have to deal with here, so I'll keep hold of the Exile effect. Exile might be relevant. Go for Mizzix being destroyed here. They did destroy their free counterspell, or discard their free counterspell before, in Fierce Guardianship. So, I mean, we've wheeled them since then anyway. So successfully destroying the Mizzix. Hopefully that will slow them down considerably. They have to recast their commander again if they want to take advantage of instants and sorceries. Playing out a Desolate Lighthouse, which is 3 mana to loot. And speaking of looting, they go for loot 2 with Faithless Looting. Discarding a couple of lands to that. Probably fishing for a board wipe, I dare say. Well, maybe not. Goblin Electromancer is a creature, make their instants and sorceries cost 1 less. Flashing back the Faithless Looting after that, so I'm guessing they don't really have much of anything. And obviously they haven't recast their commander, which they'll still need to next turn, and it won't leave them with much mana left. They just let a mana go from their main phase. They're now at the beginning of combat phase, and this is Temur mana for them. Looks like they've just started to play with the Bloom Tender now, so yeah, hopefully, yeah, that looks like a shame scoop to me. They completely forgot about the Bloom Tender being able to tap for mana, and went through to the beginning of combat, lost the floating blue mana, so maybe there was a 4 mana drop that they could have gone for there, had they remembered about the Bloom Tender. Anyway, we will go for Vampiric Tutor, and draw into whatever we tutor for. Not sure what we're going for yet, to be honest. Actually, that might be a misplay on my part. We've got 2, 4, 6. Yeah, what we could have done there instead was played Akroma's Memorial, held on to priority, and tutored something on top for free. Got into a free 6 drop. And there we go. What did I say about Swan Song? So we wouldn't have got that down anyway. So that means we draw into a mystery card. That is Assassin's Trophy. Probably have to take advantage of the fact that we don't need an untapped land. Get down the Triome here. Let's go Akroma's Memorial. We will have haste on whatever creature we get into. And that is a legendary permanent, so Jodah is going to get us into something good here, I hope. Yeah, not bad. That is a Drizzt. So casting that will get us a couple of legendaries. That is a 3/3 double strike. And now an 8/8 double strike thanks to the Jodah. It's going to be even bigger than that when the wolf comes out. Or actually, it's not a wolf, is it? It's a 4/1 cat. Yoshimaru triggers on that entering. And then this thing enters. It's an 8/7 with trample. Yoshimaru triggers on both of those. They do still have mana from the Bloom Tender, so could counter the Akroma's Memorial here. And our opponent telling us he's 1 mana short, so that could be telling us something there. 3 mana counterspell, like a Void. Is it Void Rend or something? The Simic 3 mana counterspell that's basically a mana drain. disallow or something like that, maybe. Don't know if we've necessarily got our opponent here anyway. We do get trample, so maybe. Don't have any commander damage on them yet. Now tapping down the Bloom Tender again. Tapping that down. Oh, they're just looking for a spell. Yeah, tapping down the Dreamtail Heron. So that's less blockers for them. They get an island into play there, so hopefully it wasn't just double blue that they were after. Because, yeah, they've just been able to make double blue inadvertently. Play out the tap land before I forget. Okay, now tapping down double blue, so they've still got something. Maybe it's a 2-mana Cyclonic Rift on the Jodah. No, just deciding to cycle. That is a rebuild. Return all artifacts to their owner's hands. Yeah, they were 1 mana shy. That's obviously the spell they were going for. Wouldn't have completely blown us out. I might have just gone for a Demonic Tutor into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, maybe Demonic Tutor into Rift next turn to slow them down, but I mean, that suggests that we would have actually been able to land a Cyclonic Rift. Anyway, attacking with all our Vigilance keyword creatures. Kari Zev makes another Ragavan, so that is going to buff the Yoshimaru as well as everything else by +1/+1. So Cloud of Fairies blocking the Yoshimaru. I mean, it doesn't really matter what blocks what really, because it's all got trample. We're not going to lose anything in combat. Okay, excellent, and we managed to get them down to -23, so quite convincing in the end. That was pretty much a case of there were 2 bigger threats at the board than Jodah, so Jodah was just allowed to run rampant there in the end. And then, yeah, it was pretty lucky that we were able to land the Akroma's Memorial. That made all the difference for us. Massive thank you again to Corzilla for playing. If any of you want to become patrons and support on the channel via Patreon, then the link is in the description below. Huge thank you to those of you who do that already. If you want to support for free, then just leaving a like on the button will help with YouTube's algorithms, and that is the best way that you can support the channel for free, because it does have YouTube push the video out to other potential viewers and subscribers. So if you do that, then a massive thank you. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.